Thank you. Well, good morning. It's great to be here, and I'd like to welcome you if you're in Italy, Spain, Holland, Belgium, Ireland, Luxembourg. You are part of this discussion today about the EU Commission's response to the Work-Life Balance Initiative. We have people standing at the back, and there is actually some room. If you're standing at the back, you can there are some reserved seats. Let's release them now. Come and take a proper seat. You don't need to stand. But this is a big issue. There's a lot of passion about this issue, and I'm going to do a poll in a moment using electronic equipment. I'm sorry if you're in the remote sites, you can't participate in that, but you can fire questions to the panel in a moment. I'd like you first to put your hands in the air if in the last year you've had a serious discussion with someone you love about getting a better balance in your own personal life. Put your hands up now. Have a look around. The camera is turning onto you. We're looking at your faces. Keep your hands and wave them so the cameras can see, and send your message around the world to the other sites that we are in this business. It's serious. Thank you. Wherever I go, over the last 5 years, I have asked every audience just about this same question. And in every single audience, at least 75 to 80% have put up their hands and said, this is a major issue. I didn't look at the panel. Did they put their hands up? Would you like to do it again for me? Only one. The person who gave the speech. Okay, folks. It's World Women's Day. I'm delighted to be here as a man. And let me tell you something about men and women before we go on to the important issue of how we live together. 75% of all UK and American wealth, I don't know about Belgium, but all UK and American wealth is owned by those over the age of 65. And as you know, 65% of all 65-year-olds are women. 75% of all 75-year-olds are women, 85% of all 85-year-olds are women, and 180% of all 100-year-olds are women. Now, you can do the maths, therefore, and you can work out that in my country, old women own most of the wealth. They also own most of America, and something else very interesting too, though in Italy, there will be 1 million women over the age of 90 by 2026. They will determine 90-year-old women, 91, 92-year-old women, 98-year-old women. Women over the age of 90 will determine the result of every election in Italy for the following decade. Do I hear a round of applause on that? Not only that, steady now. Got you very excited. Not only that, 80-year-old women and above will determine the result of every election in Germany, in Spain, in Portugal. We are an aging community in Europe, and where you have only small differences between major parties, you will find that an older constituency of women will have huge influence. What on earth does that mean regarding work-life balance? Well, it's all part of the same picture. You see that men are gradually dying out. It's something to do with our hormones. It's called testosterone. I'll come back to that in a moment. Actually, it's happening at high school. In my country, men are dying out. If you look at those getting the best qualifications in Britain, and America, in Portugal, in Spain, in Italy, in most of the EU, women are outgunning men in their mental performance. It starts at the age of 16. By 18, they are already leading the pack. In my country, my eldest daughter, we have 4 children, and I am passionate about work-life balance. I'm still married to my best friend. We got married when we were 21. We've known each other since we were 15, and she's a better friend to me now than she was then. So I'm passionate about this issue, okay? I said to Sheila, my wife, as I was preparing this on a Sunday, I said over Sunday lunch yesterday, I said, am I qualified to talk about this issue in front of these people? Because usually I like to travel together with her. I like to travel as a couple if we're talking about this issue, because we have to live it, right? What is the point of having a message which is not consistent with our life? I have nothing to say to you unless Sheila says, I have something to say to you. She said, I did. She said, you can talk about it. She said, you just need to recognize it's not normal. I said, what do you mean by that? She always said, I travel around the world on lots of planes, trains, and things like that. Sometimes I work on a Sunday because I'm preparing on a Monday. Twice, I go straight from here into a session round the corner on leadership ethics here in this building. Work-life balance. So, tomorrow, we have a day off together, Tuesday. How have we made it work for us? Because both of us have had to work these things out together so that we can have a degree of flexibility that works in our family. So I'm passionate about this issue, but just coming back to men and women. Men, our eldest daughter, Caroline, has just become a doctor. 60% of all the new doctors in Britain are women. 60% of all the new lawyers in Britain are women. But when we look further up, we see a major catastrophe. 3%, less than 3% of the leaders of Fortune 1000 companies are women. They are absent on many boards, and at every level in your organization, they disappear. They melt away. In fact, I can tell half of the women in this room will be gone from the EU Commission in the next 5 to 10 years. I know that. And you know what? I'll come on to something else that will be very embarrassing for the men. You see, absent women means incompetent men do very well. It's marvelous. What it means is that if you look, what did you say? It was 10%, it was 40%, 53% coming in, and then the next layer up was about 40%, then the next layer up dropped to 20%, then the next layer up drops to about the top of the organization, 12%. So what on earth happened to the women, and what wonderful promotion opportunities for incompetent men. Now, you might think this is a bit of a joke, but let me tell you. You see, the EU Commission can go on being inefficient for years and years, and people will still pay your bills. You can afford to employ incompetent people and no one will really notice. I'm sorry, that's not fair. But I promise you this. If you're Nokia, you go out of business. If you're ExxonMobil, you get taken over. Every quarter you have to make your numbers. If you don't, you're out of the game. You cannot afford incompetence. And that is why industry has led, and I think the EU is behind, I have been told, I know not, but I am told by those inside your organization that you are a long way behind where industry has been. Because industry had to get this right. And I promise you this, that a significant number of the women in this room who will leave the EU because work-life balance is a mess, you will go straight into another job where work-life balance is better sorted, and quite a few of them will be people who will be hungry to seize your talent to make better profit. And they will pay just as well, if not more, and their businesses. And that means that the EU is in direct position, or will be in the future, not only to keep the talent, but to attract it in the first place. So it's a primary issue, I think, for the future. And if we look at the top 20 companies, just to strengthen this statement, this is a Business Week survey looking at the top 20 most performing companies. They were twice as likely to have women in the top team. What a surprise. They've managed to hang on to their talent rather than see it all trained up and waste away. So the title of today was Work-Life Balance, the Secret of High-Performing Teams. Now we begin to see why. You cannot have a high-performing team with incompetence. And the fastest way to ensure incompetence is to drive half of your most successful talented and entrepreneurial, creative people out of your team. So this is our number one issue. By the way, I hate the word work-life balance. You see, what's the opposite of life? It implies, my friends, that working here is sheer death every day. I know that's not true, so let's change the word. It's life-life balance we're talking about. It's balance between the different kinds of passions that we have. But when they're out of balance, we get mega stressed. And stress, well, we know that stress produces problems. You might think that these things have changed in the light of the recession, and it's true they have a little bit. But if we look back before the recession, if you looked at maybe 10,000 UK, US, Japanese, Belgian, Dutch, Swiss, French, German, Italian workers, you would find the same. Work-life balance is number one or number two career priority. 10 years ago, when I taught on MBA programs, you'd get ambitious graduates from other universities, and they are coming in for a new program for one reason. They want to be on the board within 12 weeks of leaving the business school. Not now. They couldn't care less. They want to be successful on their own terms, but they also want to have a life. And they are no longer prepared to sacrifice the whole of their existence on the altar of some empty ambition, which they suspect will leave them dissatisfied and wrecked from the relational point of view. Now, it is true that the recession has changed this a bit. Those that are hungry are really worried about unemployment. They stop complaining about work-life balance, but they carry on feeling the passion. And the moment their security improves, they start wanting it again. It is also true, I spend a lot of my time in developing countries, working with an AIDS organization that my wife and I started in our own home in 1988. And we're now active in 23 nations, including places like Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, India, China, Zimbabwe, Congo, and so on. And I can tell you, if you go to India and you talk to this young man here, and you ask him, you say, his name is Sujay, you ask him about work-life balance, he won't understand what you mean. He says, I'm the first from my family to go to university. All my nephews and my uncles and my aunts and my brother-in-law, everyone, they put money together to get me to be a doctor. I am so pleased, and they are proud of me, and now I am funding them. In fact, I have 10 or 15 different members of my family who depend on my salary now, and I am putting back what they gave to me. You don't talk to him about work-life balance. He is in a different place. So it is true you could say that work-life balance is the language of the affluent, the over-comfortable, and the industrialized society. I just want to temper that because sometimes that's a point that's made. But balance is usually about people rather than playing golf. As a physician, I know how much work-life balance destroys people. It makes us ill. I'm not just talking about stress. It gives us heart attacks and strokes. Work-life balance issues can take years of someone's life. They can put someone into an early grave at the age of 55, who would otherwise live till they're 80. Work-life balance sends people mad. It sends people to the point where they cannot cope, where they need not just a stress break for a week, but they are broken. And sometimes it can be the smallest thing. Oh, I don't know. Someone burgled their house. The following day, he says he's not coming into work. He did not come back for 9 months. And you said, what happened? He just had a burglary. But it was stress on top of stress, on top of stress, on top of stress. He could not function. For 3 weeks, he was in an acute psychiatric ward. For 6 months, he had psychotherapy. And he's back as a wounded soldier after 6 months, working 5 half days per week. Work-life balance destroys people, and we need to take it seriously. Work-life balance prevents us from being productive. Put your hands up if you know that you get your best ideas on holiday or walking the dog or having a hot bath. Put your hands up. This is where genius happens. You can spend 6 months battling with a problem, take a week off holiday, and click, something happens, doesn't it? Isn't it amazing? It happens during your sleep, even. You wake up refreshed, with a clear head, and you think, it's 5 in the morning, I shouldn't be awake. I write books. This is where I write. I write. I wake up and think, I can write the first chapter now. And you were talking about writing at home. Writing at home when no one else is awake. Those 2 magic hours of clarity. You could get more done in those 2 hours in a strategy for your department for the next decade than you might do in 6 months inside the office. Put your hands up if you know that's true. Clarity requires rest. It requires distance. Most of us are blind to the very details that we're in. Most of us are so close to the detail of what we are that we can't manage it clearly. That's why you get management consultants into businesses, because they see things from a distance. And they come in with a fresh eyes. They're completely ignorant about you, but they see something because they're fresh. How much better for you to be fresh as they are, with all the experience and insight that you have into your own work and the commission, and to come in with that passion and fire and see things clearly. But it will only happen if you deal with work-life balance. Work-life balance is dangerous. Work-life balance literally kills people. Work-life balance cuts people's arms off. Why? Because when they're overtired, someone slips and falls into a cutting machine. Work-life balance causes factories to burn down. Why? Because an electrician was too tired to notice that he'd wired up something incorrectly when he went home on a Friday night. Overtiredness is one of the commonest causes of industrial accidents. You start looking at things like the subprime crisis and major errors made of judgment. And I wonder sometimes whether one of the contributing factors was that many of the people involved were so pressed, with so little bandwidth, so overstretched, working such ridiculous hours that they had not got time to stop and really think. And my friends, if there's any group that we need to stop and really think, it's the European Commission. Because you are the brain box of the Eurozone, you are the brain box of Euroland, you are the people who develop the legislation, you develop the policies, you are the intellectual powerhouse behind the European Parliament, you are the advisors and steerers and guides to ministers, and we cannot afford to have too much wood for the trees. But I am also, I have to say, really sad, because work-life balance also destroys family. You know, I'm passionate about family, I'm passionate about children, I'm passionate about married life. Often after a session like this, someone will come to me, and as they're starting to talk, I see the tears already in their face. And I can sense some of the pain. And they're about to talk to me, I know. Except they don't need to say much more. I can begin to see the story already. Broken relationships. A second marriage that hasn't worked. 2 sets of children now, and none of them speaking to him. And at every point, the workplace was a significant element amongst all of the other complexities. We see the pain too in children. Children who can't divorce their parents. They are genetically a product of 2 people. Whatever happens to those 2 between them, the children still have tensions. Bits of them taken in different directions through forces beyond their control. And I believe our workplace patterns have a lot to answer for. I'm going to ask you a personal question, not about your own life, because that's too personal. I'd like you to put your hands in the air if you know someone where you believe a relational breakdown has been directly or significantly caused by work-life balance issues. Put your hands up now. My friends, we should be sobered. And we have complex issues. Some of us have young children at home, but also, the very day that they begin to leave, we have older parents as well. 12% of mothers want to work full-time only. 31% don't want to work outside the home at all. 28% of men want full-time jobs. Who have full-time jobs want part-time jobs. This is not just a women's thing. Most fathers want more time with their children. And you know what it's about? It's about passion. It's about the passions, balancing them. Passions for a life outside of work and lack of passion, perhaps inside work. I'll say this, where you have passion, the stronger the passion is at work, the less you worry about work-life balance. I said I work a chunk of my time in AIDS, in this AIDS charity as a volunteer. These volunteers are driven. They've given their entire lives. They don't talk to me about work-life balance. So it's another way of solving that problem. And passion comes from purpose, never from pressure. Volunteers are amazing people. We learn a lot from them. I think if we can get even 2% of the passion that some of you have here in this room for volunteering into your job, then you will find part of the answer to motivating your teams. Put your hand up if you give time regularly to something you believe in. Maybe you're visiting someone in a hospice, maybe you do the accounts of a charity for AIDS orphans in Zimbabwe. And maybe you help out at a local church, as I do, or in a synagogue or a mosque. But if you're part of the 400 billion contribution of time equivalent worldwide, put your hands up now. Wave them. Now the rest of you are too busy at the moment, but you'll do it later, or you did it at university, or you give time, so you contract it out to other volunteers by giving time. Volunteering is an indication of passion. And it's huge. We're talking about 100 million Europeans, 30% of Europeans volunteer, 80% say volunteering matters. And one of the reasons why people want work-life balance is not just for family, but it's also to do something else which they think is really worthwhile. So what about this collective madness then? You've got everyone in the organisation who thinks work-life balance is important, including the boss. But before we find the answer to that, let's do a survey. Let's do an electronic survey and find out how strong this collective madness is. You see, I talk to your bosses and they say, oh yes, work-life balance is #1 career priority for me too. They go all the way up, right up to the top of the organisation, and you find the same. And it's the same on the board of every multinational. This toxic nonsense. So everybody thinks it's important, but nobody's doing it. And they all blame it on the boss. Okay, let's go and look at the survey. I want you to pick up your voting machine. I'm sorry if you are in Italy, Spain, Holland, Germany, Belgium, Ireland or Luxembourg. Stay with us, this won't take long, and you'll have your answer in a moment. But we're just going to vote, and from within this room I want you to pick up, show me these things, wave them to me, make sure you got them, thank you. You'll notice that they just have numbers, ignore the go button. In a moment you're going to press a number as we present some questions on the screen. 1 to 9, then this numbering is completely anonymous. Nobody knows who you are, I promise you. It's absolutely true. There's not some conspiracy here. We're going to ask you 1 or 2 general questions about yourself, which will help us to match profile. Okay, so let's go. Let's look at the first question now. If you're male or female, press 1 or 2, press now. 1 for female, 2 for male. Press now and press until the green button comes on. Straight away we see 385, 386 out of 465. Come on, where's the rest of you? Come on. I haven't got time to wait. That's enough. On to the next question. 388 out of 465. Okay, let's try again. What is your age group? Press 1 for 20 to 35, 2 for 36 to 50, and 3 more than 50 years old. Off you go. Thank you. Oh, we're getting the hang of it now. 390. Okay, very good. On to the next question. The next question is about your function. Do you have an assistant function, an administrator function, or a management function? I wish I knew the difference between those. But you obviously do. Now, button pressing. Thank you very much. Oh, 380, it's amazing. More people know the answer to that than any other question. They weren't sure about gender. And they were very uncertain about age. It tells us something very profound about the staff in the European Union. European Commission. Okay, next one. Next question. Do you have caring responsibilities? This is really important for parents or children. 1 for yes, 2 for no. Okay, next question. I think that's about it. Are those all the questions? Whoa. Are you in a position to reveal those to us straight away? I know we were going to... we were doing things a little bit differently than we planned. But actually, I'd quite like to, if you're ready. Are you ready? You want a minute, don't you? He wants a couple of slides. Okay, you give me back my own slides then, just for a moment. While we wait for... If we just switch back to my machine now. Thank you. Collective madness. It's a toxic testosterone culture. It may be dying, but it's there. I can't tell you how many times I've been working with corporates, and I say to them, what do you do for team building? And they say, oh, we go paintballing, man. Then ask another team, and what did you do after the paintballing? Oh, we went to I can't even say it, a lap table dancing club. Great. And which woman in your organisation produced that list? Now you might say, that's a very sexist thing to say. I really want to do paintballing and go to a lap dancing club. Fine. But I know that there's many women in such teams, especially when they're in a minority, who don't find that culture particularly interesting to work in. Especially when you get that same kind of aggressive humour, sexual innuendo, and the rest. And after a while, you just think, life's too short. I mean, goodness me, there's better places to... Oh, there's a woman here nodding away. It's all right, we won't put you on camera. The EU directive has been great, but it's not the whole answer. Especially in a BlackBerry culture. There are all kinds of jobs which just don't fit. I don't think any of your jobs fit in the EU directive, do they? I mean, are you able to plan the number of hours you work per week? Does someone put your boss in prison if you work too many? You know, my experience is that many of us here were taking BlackBerries to the beach, computers up the ski slope. We are feeling guilty on a Saturday because of the paper we've got to do by Sunday. Put your hands up if you identify with this, or perhaps I'm talking fantasy. Put your hands up. Not so sure. But workplace earnings conditions have improved quite a lot, which is good. But we still have far to go. I'd say this, you know, life's too short to do things you don't believe in. Put your hands up if you believe that's true. Okay, I hope we don't have many resignations by the end of this session, but we might have a few. Joking aside, it's a regular outcome of our presentations. People have a renaissance moment. They wake up. They suddenly think, why on earth am I doing this? Why am I putting up with this? I promise you, if you've never had that moment, you cannot change. You will only change your own work-life balance situation if you have such a moment. Let me explain. 82% of people, you know, won't work for a company they don't like the values of. This is back to the work-life balance thing again. If you think, well, actually, I don't think they get it. I don't think they understand the fact that I've got 2 children. One is only 1 year old, and the other's 3 years old. When one has measles at once, I can cope. If 2 of them have measles on the same day, I can't. I need to work at home that day. A good boss will understand that. A good boss, if he finds out, will be really angry that you haven't told him or her. Say, how, you know, what's your name? Daniela. I say to Daniela, Daniela, I feel really upset that you didn't trust me enough to tell me. How could you possibly have 2 children sick at home, and you didn't tell me? Go now. Go home. I don't want to see you this week. I don't want to see you next week. Hey, why are you laughing at me? I'm being a boss. I have employed people. I do employ people. That is how I work. I know that Daniela would be 20 times more likely to be committed to me as a result. Do you think she'll do more work or less work when she gets home as a result? More. More. You see, I'm a selfish boss. I want to get as much value from Daniela as possible. That is why I'm sending her home to look after her children. Because if I'm in a business, it improves my bottom line. And if I'm in the European Union, it delivers a paper on time. So you either trust people or you don't. That's why I love part-timers. You know that 2 part-timers gets more out of the work than there's one person doing the same job. Okay. So what can we do? Yes, we've talked about part-time, job sharing, flexibility, start and finish time, shorter working weeks, extra unpaid leave for study. Extra unpaid leave for study is fantastic. To be able to say to someone, listen, I can't pay you to do all of that, but I love you for doing it. You want to go to Zimbabwe and work with some orphans for 8 weeks. I don't know how we're going to do it, but I'm going to do my very best. They'll probably come in the following day, so you know what? I've decided not to do it. But the fact that you took them seriously, that you understood that there was a passion there, that you connected with that passion, will make that person much more likely to serve you. So I think it's very important that we model a future that we want. I say this, you cannot lead except by example. And that example can be upwards, downwards, sideways. And I say this, are you prepared to walk? Many people, and I'm near the end now, last couple of slides. Many people come to me and they say, you know what, I'm fed up of this job. I really, really want to work I only want to work 120 hours a week, not 180. So I'm thinking of dropping half a day. And I say, and why haven't you? You don't understand the pressures I'm under. My boss would think badly of me. I say, oh really? Yes, I think it would probably damage my commitment. In fact, I haven't even dared tell my boss that I'm thinking of having a baby next year. I say, I'm sad about that. So I say, so you're a slave. What? So you've become an economic slave. You have lost your soul. You are dead inside. How dare you? I say it's true, because you are afraid to walk. So long as you are afraid to walk, your boss has got total control. And I'm going to talk about this in terms of leadership ethics in a moment. If you're not prepared to leave the European Commission over an ethical question, then I guarantee your department will become corrupt. Why? Because if you cannot find it within yourself to consider life outside of your job and your career, then the system already has controlled you and will control you and will wipe you out. I'm exaggerating only a little bit, but I promise you this, every institution where people are afraid to leave becomes corrupt. That is the lesson of history. And it's only free spirits that keep an institution true. It's people who are prepared to walk. Say, well, I'm not prepared to put up with this. And the only people that will change your culture in terms of work-life balance are people like you who are prepared to walk. And this is how the conversation goes, and this is really exciting. So you go to your boss. Say, what's your name? Maria. Maria, I know nothing about you. You go to your boss. And we've had a little conversation. You say, I can't have that conversation. I said, I dare you. Then you phone me up the following week and say, hey, it's Maria here. You never guess what? Oh, yes. You never guess what? I can guess. I asked my boss. Yes. I said to my boss. Yes. I said, I'm not putting up with this anymore. There's more to my life than your stupid department. I love working for you. I do think it's very important what we do. I love it. But I'm not prepared to destroy my family over it. And I have decided, I have made my decision. I am changing this job. Either I'm leaving or this job changes, and it will change from 16 weeks' time, and this is what I want. I am looking to drop 1.5 days a week from the 1st of July, 1.5 days a week. I would be willing to phase that in if you want over for the following 3 months. But I am not prepared to work any longer for more than 3.5 days a week. That's the bad news. The good news is I will be available to you on every day. I will be available by BlackBerry, if necessary by phone call. I will be more available than some of your full-time staff who are always in meetings. But I'm not going to kill myself for you full-time. You'll find me in work 3.5 days a week. If there's a lot of time you're taking on the other days, you'll find from time to time I'll take a half day. So I'll actually probably be in, on average, 3 physical days a week, and I will do half a day a week on the other 2 days. I will be always available to you. You will always have my phone. You can call me any time. Well, some of your staff you can't call any time because they're in meetings. My meetings is picking up the children from school, doing lots of other things. So there will be times, probably an hour, hour and a half, when I can't phone back. But you will get a response. And you probably find some emails from me at very odd times of the day and night. But that's the deal. No compromise. I'm looking for other jobs. You know what? You've become the most attractive person in your boss's team. You know why? Because you're the one person who's not afraid. You're not afraid to walk. You know what you want. You've got passion. You're an interesting person. You can't be corrupted. You can't be bent. You know the ground on which you're standing. These are the values that I believe in. You are your own person. And as scary as anything, but also as attractive as anything, because those are the kind of people who build organizations. They're the people who have guts. They're the people who have courage, unlike the others in your group who say, oh, I wish I had your courage. The one person who's got courage and guts, those are the people you want to keep in an institution. And the trouble is, those are the ones that usually leave. And a boss with any caliber will want to keep someone like you. A boss who is threatened by someone who's really talented will be thanking God that you're going to go. That's a sad thing. So bosses breed mediocre teams if they are themselves poorly talented. Men. Some of them. But if you've got a great boss, this is the test of a great boss. A great boss will work with you. And I can't tell you how many times the person's around and says, hey, guess what? Amazing thing happened. Yes. What happened? What happened was, he said, one, you've got it. I'll bend the job around you because you are actually, it's my wake-up call. I suddenly realized, 3 o'clock in the morning, how much you do in my team. 2, because I realize how much you do in my team, I'm going to promote you. And I've just worked out, with promotions and the tax and various other things as well, you'll be about 25 euros worse off only, doing 1.5 days less. And that is happening often. So we're elevating, we're adding value, being more focused, and as we're showing we're prepared to walk, amazing things happen. And with this I need to close, so sorry you're leaving, or glad you're coming back. But I'm saying that we could live work-life balance. It becomes part of our genetic code. It enables you to position yourself as employer of choice, and I believe is of fundamental importance. Without it, you have no hope, I would suggest, of reversing this tremendous challenge that you have of losing around half of all your most, well, you lose half of your women, which is a quarter of the most talented people. You're losing 25% of your talent. I don't see any other way of doing it other than paying attention to this issue, and the way to start is with your own life. Put your hands up, finally, if you've made decisions as a leader to model this in your own life and to start leading by example, and you made structural changes to give permission to those underneath you to get a better work-life balance themselves. Put your hands up if you're doing that. It's the only way to say, folks, you've told me something that's crazy. You walked in here and you told me the work-life balance is incredibly important to you. Hardly any of you are doing it, but you're leaders of your own organizations. And by leading it, you're also leading upwards as well. And remember, if your boss don't happy, you can lead down, and if your boss can't cope with being led upwards on the issue, you leave. Or consider leaving. And that's way we'll build a better world. Not only for individuals, but for families, for communities, and I believe more widely across the European Union. Thank you very much. Okay. Now then, we have some answers to these questions. And one or two other questions, all right? Back. We've gone these ones already. What is your gender? Yeah, male, female. What a surprise. Yes, okay. Age group? Yep, okay, so 36 to 50s mainly next. Assistant functions, okay, mainly administrator, thanks. Next. Okay, lots of you here have multiple caring responsibilities. Next. Right, now, one or two more questions. Yep, let's go. So, how important is work-life balance for you? Go for it. If it's extremely important, 9. If it's 1, not important at all. Okay. Right, next. Next one. How close are you to your own ideal work-life balance? 1 to 9. Extremely far away, number 1. Very close, number 9. Thank you. Next. Do you make use of any of the following Commission work-life balance initiatives, like part-time, parental leave, telework, flexi-time, etc., etc.? Yes or no? 1 or 2? Yes or no? Next. When looking for a new job, how important is work-life balance for your final choice? Don't count at all, moderately, significantly, or critically, 1 to 4. Okay, another 3 seconds. Next. Okay, how quickly can we show? You still got 2 left. Oh, what other 2 questions have we got? Does your DG offer you the right conditions and environment for achieving a good work-life balance? Yes or no, 1 or 2. And then our final question is coming up in 3 seconds. Go for it. Oh my. What are the main barriers at work to a better work-life balance? Number 1. You can do 2 of these. You can press twice. My workload is too large. My superiors will judge me more favourably the longer I stay at work. My direct manager is not considerate of my life outside work. I feel that it would negatively impact on my career. Use of family-friendly working patterns by men at the Commission is still not accepted. And finally, I fear the resentment of my co-workers. 2 buttons, press now. Hmm? 2 more. Okay, go. Next one. Okay. Which of the following do you agree with? I'm not fully aware of all the measures. I really don't understand what's going on regarding work life. Number 2. The measures currently in place are perfectly sufficient and very well applied. 3. The measures currently in place are okay, but they're not well applied. And 4. The measures are useless and need to be developed loads more. Okay, and then finally, I think it really is final. What would help you achieve a good work-life balance? Clearer priorities from management. People leading by example, walking the talk. Focus on results rather than presence in the office. More possibilities to avail of flexible working patterns. Encouraging middle management to be supportive of employees and to find solutions to issues at work. And increasing internal communication. You can press any 2 of these. Finished. How quickly can we get the results? And we're going to wait just 5 seconds, then we're going to give you all the results. And then the panel is going to pile in there and comment. And then we're going to bounce off to some of the remote sites. We're also going to take questions from you and comments from you. We're going to keep it short, sharp and energetic. So I want you to be ready with your finger on the buttons. And let's see how many comments we can take from the floor. But first, we're going to look at some of the results. Results. Please don't go away with your keypad. All right. Yes. Okay. You have been warned. All right. Oh, here we go. How important is work-life balance for you? Extremely important, 63%. Any surprises there, panel? No? Okay. Next one. How close are you to your ideal balance? Well, some of you are very good at it. You're obviously providing tremendous leadership in this area. That's a great result, because it shows us is that there's, doesn't it? It shows us that there's room for people to mentor other people, doesn't it? There are people inside this room. Put your hands up if you put up, is it 7, 8 or 9 to that question? Folks, you are mentors, you are coaches, you are the people who can make it work here. Okay, next one. Do you make use of any initiatives? Well, something's working. And we heard about this, didn't we? How many people did you say were using the part-time, flexi-time? 18,000. 18,000 were using flexi-time, so that's a tremendous achievement. And next, when looking for a new job, this is what I was saying. It's critically important or very important. Work-life balance is very, very important. Let me ask a question. How many of you are responsible for employing people or putting out ads or considering team design or vacancies or who you're going to add next? Put your hands up. How many of you have ever seen an EU Commission ad saying work-life balance is critically important for all members of this team, and we will want to work closely with you to achieve your best result? Put your hands up if you see something like that. They all see that. They all say that. Yes, please press the button. See, make a comment here. Press the button.
You see that in almost all vacancies. It's sort of it's a formal sentence. That
well, that's a start. So just sue them. So it's written into policy, is it? Work-life balance is written into policy. Can we go back to one of those previous results? Go back. Okay, so what we're saying is that we have policy, we have an employee promise. It's written into the contract. If it's in the ad, it must be in the contract. By definition, if you accept a job that's been advertised, every single thing that's written in the advertisement is part of your contract under European law. By definition. Because it's the Sales Description Act. You can't sell a job and then deliver something else. So we have tremendous muscle on this. Okay, next one. Next question. Okay, we'll just spin through these. Does it right condition, options and environment. Okay, next. Previous one then. Okay. Mr. Sevkovic, would you like to comment on this one? Let's start the panel.
So on all your presentation, I must say, because at first I have to say that I was very impressed by your passionate approach. And next time when I'll speak here, I want the same mic like you have. Then I was not that amused at how many of you have been cheering that the men are dying up. You know, I mean, it's, you still need us for the good sake, I think. You know, then of course I could not notice even a louder cheering up when there was a talk about incompetent men. So I, responsible for the gender balance within the Commission, I'll try to do something about that, so they will not have so much chance. But in the middle of the presentation, I thought that looking at the Directors General that we should all give you some kind of leave for 2 weeks or something, because because the life is so difficult. But I think that even these slides and this very quick survey proved that it's not that bad in the Commission, and I think that we are trying to do our best. This is still, I must say, fairly new concept of last 10-15 years, and really the scale of values what we are looking in the job is developing, and I'm very thankful to the professor for reminding us in such a plastic manner, such a passionate presentation, that what we should focus on. And I think that's very clear from your answers that where we have to focus on. I think that we have a lot of good policies. Sometimes we are not applying them as flexible as they needed to be applied. And I think that what is very important to have an enlightened boss, as you said, who knows how difficult it is to combine the work and the family, and to create the conditions that you feel good at the work. And I think that on this we can 100% agree, and I'm quite encouraged by the results which have been there, because it showed that if we compare the results with a few years ago, I think that the progress is there, but I still want to assure everybody that we'll be working very hard, that when you come next time, the figures will be better, you know.
Thank you. Any comment?
The question?
Just comment.
Well, I like very much the point that you hammered at us, that the talent pool in the world is limited, and that the Commission will need to work hard on both attracting and retaining talented people, and that we cannot afford to not look at half of the talent pool, which is women, and we need to try better. I also think that even in the 5 years I've been in the Commission, I have seen progress, I have seen movement, which is positive, but I don't think we can or should rest on the laurels and need to do more.
Okay, I think we shouldn't wait to become 90 years old before we have a bit more influence. I think that was one of the things I learned from you. I come from DG Competition, and there it's really clear that we have to run a business model which is capable of competing with the outside law firms, the outside economists. So actually we can't compete on salary. My companion here to the left prevents us from doing that. So we can only compete on work-life balance. That's part...
And also purpose.
Yes, but what I want to inject into the discussion, if I may, is that, for me, one of the big things is you're saying passion for work affects work-life balance. So for me, what has to come into the room is something which is a little bit more qualitative. So the managerial responsibility to create jobs, to create tasks, to create clarity about tasks that mean that when you're in your work, you're enjoying it. So this qualitative dimension, I'd really like to hear back from the room what they think about the state of play on that right now.
Thank you for that provocation. We'll ask that just in a moment, but before we do...
Okay, thanks. So talking about passion and volunteering, I just wanted to give one personal example, which is mine, which I know best, which is that you also need a little bit of creativity when you are in this position. So what I did was that I'm giving yoga classes now in the office. So we have a sports room, and twice a week I'm giving yoga classes. And at the beginning there was nobody in those yoga classes because they were a little bit impressed, you know, Director General giving yoga classes. Meanwhile, the class is full, and people see that I can stop 5:15 on Mondays and at 1 on Friday at lunchtime, and we have a 1-hour yoga class. Wow. And it has completely changed the atmosphere. So this is one example, but I'm pretty sure we can find others.
Wow, fantastic. Go on. Yep. One more comment, then we're going to go to the audience.
Unfortunately, I'm not good enough to give a class, but in Reggio we started yoga and Pilates, and I do participate in the Pilates, but I hope that the next stage will be giving them.
Right, now this is your time, and I want you to put your hands up, wave them to me if you'd like to make a contribution. Yes, go for it, and wave your hands and attach my attention, because I'm going to come to you pretty quickly. If you're also ready to make a contribution. So keep waving your hands. Yes, make a contribution.
I'd like to bring up the issue of the problem of theory and practice. And I'd like to give an example from my own DG. Maybe I won't say which one it is.
Go on.
Because it's not relevant. But for example, the teleworking system, or the working from home system, appeared to have been introduced to enable people to have a work-life balance. Okay, life, the word was life. And as Mr. Šefčovič said, and as you said, everybody has a life. However, in practice, when this is being implemented, the material everywhere seems to have replaced the word life with the word family or the word children. And what's happened now in my DG is that it's virtually impossible now for anybody who doesn't have children or a disability to get it's clearly discriminatory.
Discriminatory and should be made illegal.
And I've actually asked to make this point at the meeting by two of my female colleagues,
quite right,
who were refused teleworking this year because there were too many.
No, so they're sent on fertility courses to get pregnant.
Well, exactly, and they're feeling very bad about it because they already feel that they are judged for not having children.
Right.
And now they're feeling this is kind of been almost in black and white.
Okay, it's a number one issue. We're talking about equality. And to start implying that it's about relationships, I've often said it's about relationships rather than golf, usually, but it doesn't mean to say it's about children. And it can be about passions, like the volunteering, or it could even be about walking the dog, whatever it is. Well, one of the panel like to respond to that, because I think it's a fundamental issue. No, obviously not. Okay, on to the next. Who's coming to come? Well, they're thinking what they're going to respond to that one. Yes, another one. Go for it, and we'll come back to the panel in a moment. Is your button lit?
Yes, I want to comment to you as a senior female manager in the Commission. When she got appointed to her position, there was an interview of her in Commission Antiret, and she said, "You cannot arrive here by working 9 to 5. You cannot arrive to this management position by working 9 to 5." So when I read that, I thought, okay, I have 3 kids. So I'm not ready to give up this family life for opting or having an aspiration for a management position.
Right.
What do you think about that?
The problem there is the language got confused. It is perfectly okay to say, you're not coming here just thinking that it's an ordinary job. That's fine. You tick that box. You're not coming here just to think of it as another bureaucratic administration thing. It's not. You're coming here because you believe in what you're doing, because you know that you have the power to change the way that Europe functions. This is a calling. You're not coming here for the money, that's for sure. You're coming here to change the world, to build a better future, and I want your total passion and your total commitment for every hour that you give, and probably a lot more. But I also understand that for some of you, you want to do it flexibly. Some of you will be part-time, some of you full-time. But the passion is an absolute commitment, I expect, from every one of you. Now there, it's fine, isn't it? It's just the language. We just need to be careful. But now they've had a chance to think about that difficult question. Who's going to respond to it on the panel?
I'll start and Daniel will finish. That's, if it comes to the teleworking, I think that the system is, as I said in my introductory speech, the system is there, but if it comes to the teleworking, as far as I know, only 4% of the eligible people is actually using that system. Why? Because it's really also something which we decentralize. It means that it's managed by the DGs. They have to know their staff the best. They need to know the working conditions and how they can apply it. And I agree. It's not the first time I heard it, that sometimes the conditions for teleworking are too strict or too complicated. We just have to look at it, but we also have to respect that the DGs are managing their people at the decentralized way, and probably have to look at it how we can increase the number. But Daniel, you can have.
Yeah. Yes, just to add something, but perhaps I'll be a bit more general. I think, globally speaking, the rules as they stand on flexi-time, on telework, are not bad. When I'm saying this, I don't mean they cannot be improved. Of course, they can be improved. But I don't think the main issue is about the existing rule. It's my belief. You don't have to agree with me. I think the important thing is how all this is applied in practice. That's very important. And there I would say 2 things. Leadership and competition. By leadership, I mean if you have managers who show the example, then you start believing in the system. And I'll come back to this. And my second idea is competition. In other words, I may be too pessimistic because I'm getting quite old. I'm not quite 95, but I'm getting there. And therefore, as I'm becoming older, I'm probably less idealistic. And I believe that people act, most importantly, if they see their interest in doing this. And in this sense, there is an opportunity in the Commission. There is competition between DGs in order to recruit better staff. And more I see, especially among younger colleagues, people who, before applying to go to another DG, ask about the working condition. Is it relatively easy to get teleworking? Is flexi-time applied properly? And I think, therefore, if we can convince managers that it's just not to be nice, but in their own interest to offer these possibilities, I think we'll make progress. In other words, I count, it's a bit sad to say this, I count more on self-interest than on people good nature. And just one example, just to finish. I remember some years ago, I was director in the DG, which I will not mention. I had 5 units. At the time, flexi-time was only on an experimental basis. And in one unit, the head of unit decided to volunteer and to be a pilot unit and to encourage flexi-time in his unit. The result was that after a few months, the number of people applying to go to this unit doubled or trebled. And therefore, he wasn't doing this just to be nice to people, but the result was he had a better choice of candidate, a high level in the quality of colleagues, and the work was better done. So even if I'm a bit pessimistic, we have to count on people's self-interest. Once I understand that, things will improve.
One brief comment, and then I'm going to take 5 or 6 comments all in a row, and then we'll come back to the panel again.
I will not be politically correct, because it's the way I usually handle things. So sorry, Vice President, but I showed the example this morning already. I think, talking about teleworking, one size does not fit them all. And I think we have to find a system whereby we can apply rules to the situations. And by chance, there's somebody sitting in this room, which was working with, and she was working with me. She was pregnant, and at that stage, she had an accident. And so she was prepared to work from home because she really wanted to work. And it was a complete mess to get disorganized because we were completely outside the rules. So even though I was prepared to work with her and she was prepared to work with us, we couldn't stand inside the rules because the rules do not foresee certain situations. That's all. So we did it, but we were completely outside the usual rules.
And often the rules are IT related, in my experience, getting their systems secure.
Yes. I also want to say that I think the personal example and being a role model helps. I mean, I happen to have been which is strange, but the first director in the history of the Commission who had a baby on the job. And the fact that one was able to use the token...
That's right.
There are no more. And one,
it's only because she's young, it's not that she's exceptional.
Well,
very good. Fantastic.
Her name is Maternova, which says...
all right. But one of the things that we achieved in the DG, I work in DG Regio, is that the first year we had the teleworking, there was very little take-up, a lot of suspicions from colleagues in management, and a lot of people fearing that it's going to reflect badly on them. And by us agreeing that this is something that's not discouraged, maybe not encouraged, but not discouraged, and it's something that should be taken up liberally. We now have more than 135% rise from one year to another. So,
thank you. Now, I know that Mr. Sefcovic has got to go very soon to catch a plane, and I want to get 5 or 6 comments really quickly. No big speeches, please. Yes, 30 seconds, quick.
Thank you. First, I'll take the opportunity to make a very positive testimony. I've been working for the Commission for 14 years, and I have to say that there has been a very positive development. There are instruments in place now that were not in place 14 years ago. I myself, I'm making extensive use of the possibilities that there are. I feel that I am appreciated for what I do, for what I deliver, not for the time I spend actually in my office. And that has worked for me personally very well.
Great.
Until a certain point. And now comes the antithesis. Because I've reached the point where I am now interested to move on. And another good thing, the Commission has put in place a coaching system and a mentoring system. So I've had a couple of interesting discussions with senior officials in my DG about my development. And I have then mentioned things like I would like to continue to have a good work-life balance. then they look at me as if I were an extraterrestrial.
Okay.
And they say, have you really thought this through before you came to me?
Okay.
Are you really sure you want to become a manager?
Okay,
That's
so we've got
something for
patchy
you.
values. Yes, next one. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for giving us this opportunity. I would like to quote you. You said you either trust people or you don't, and I would like to pass the message that very often I think the Commission has a culture of distrust instead of trust. A small example, you travel and you go to deliver a conference in Rome for 1 day and you still need to give the boarding ticket, otherwise you're in trouble. I think, this is completely ridiculous. And I would like to highlight that the sense of purpose is very important to get the officials having the sense of passion that can help them to be dedicated. And this is also currently impedimented by the heaviness of procedures, and I think a big thing could be done there. And my last comment is for you, is that your presentation was great, but it was very much inspired by the private sector. We are an administration, we do not have a contract, we are passing a concours, we have a nomination, so we are not in a negotiating position, or maybe you can adapt.
Well, we need to change it. Okay, okay, at the back here, yes. Thank you.
I would like that you comment a little bit more on the workload question and give me, please, some elements to discuss with the managers when I come and say, more work-life balance, I need more staff.
Okay, so more and more support in that position. One more question from here. Yes. Thank you. You can clap that one. Yes.
We talked a lot about the teleworking, but I would like to highlight that many women have trouble working 80 or 90%, because when they're looking for another job, I know many colleagues who are stuck for 5, 7, 9 years in the same job because they're doing an interesting job and they want to continue to do an interesting job, but it's impossible to change job and to come to an interview and to say, I work part-time. And that's what I want to say.
Okay.
What I want to say to our managers, this is daily life facing of young women, and it is very important. And I know the system is there, but that the culture of our managers changes.
Thank you. Another question? Yep.
I'll have her back any time.
Sorry?
Darf ich meine Frage auf Deutsch stellen?
Can I ask a question in German?
Da es ja Dolmetscher gibt, möchte ich meine Frage.
We have interpretation, so I'm going to ask a question in German, if I may. There's something important which you said. You've got to trust your staff, and only if you do will it work, will there be communication. There's a lot of catching up to do there, I'm afraid. There has been some progress. What about the social dialogue with the unions? Where's the understanding within the DGs for the fact that the colleagues who work there have good ideas, can be creative, and want to work? Unfortunately, in our case, the implication is quite often that we don't really want to work. We just want to get more money and so on. I think it's up to our hierarchy to get active here. In other words, trust your staff.
Can I invite... I know that we're very limited on time with you here, and we're so grateful that you've been here. I know, but before you go, I just wondered if you'd like to... We will carry on debating, but I wondered if you'd like to just respond to some of the things that have just been said.
Thank you very much. Maybe I will take it from the back. You know, I already met with the representatives of the staff union here in Brussels and also in Luxembourg, and you know that I'm not in my job that long. So it was one of the priorities I did. I wanted to meet with your representatives, and we had very long discussion, and I was listening to different kinds of problems they are in Brussels and in Luxembourg, and I ended up with one particular phrase, that thanking them for taking me in their world, and then I was trying to get them in my world. Because the world outside, it's quite difficult, and many of the things, many of the problems you mentioned here, I mean, they are real. We are very much stressed if it comes to the budget. We are very much stressed if it comes to the salaries. You probably noticed the changed atmosphere outside when we've been discussing the salary levels of the last year. And we've been fighting very hard as a Commission for all of us, and this was not an easy battle, but we did our best. And I'm going to continue to be in touch with the trade unions, because I consider that the social dialogue is very important. And I have just one request. We'll be always there for you as a management, but I hope that you will be there for us. when we would need that.
The other side, yeah.
And if it comes to the other questions, mobility within the Commission, this is something we've been discussing this morning as well, because we have the mobility on the senior posts, and I think that it's very clear case that we should look for ways how we can increase the mobility on the middle managers, heads of unit, and also on the younger staff. Why? Because we need to overcome the silo perception, silo psychology we have within the Commission, that if you would like to do your career planning, usually you have to do it just within your DG. And it's very clear that very often when the mobility is introduced, you get much better results. Maybe sometimes the first choice you made when you've been applying for the job was not the best one, and you would perform much better in the other jobs you get. More mobility you have, more experience you have, you are much more sought after a person to work for another DG. So we are looking for the ways how to increase the mobilities, because this will make your career planning much more interesting. You will have much better opportunities, and I believe that the Commission will get much better results from having the people with this possibility in their mind. If it comes to the trusting of the people, I'm 100% for it. I always trusting my colleagues with whom I work. I can tell you I'm also presenting the boarding tickets, and I also find it ridiculous, I can tell you that. Once it's quite clear that I was representing the Commission in the Council of Ministers, but I still have to present the boarding ticket, despite I was having the press conference with all the important people there. But these are some things, I mean, which will take time, and it's very clear that we have to invest more in automation, in the processing of these processes. They will be not so cumbersome and difficult, but I am always on the side of trusting the people, because my experience from my work is that if you trust the people, they trust you, and you have much better atmosphere for work. I do not have the good answer for work and life balance if it comes to the managerial duties. It's really very difficult, and I do not want to say that I can sort out everything, because really the managerial job is very difficult. It's very stressful. There are really long hours, and I cannot imagine what kind of measures we can put in place that really this would be every day, as it was said, from 9 to 5. I believe that we can do a lot in prioritizing, in better time management, and in many other things. But if you would apply for the job of the managerial job with the vision that you will be at home every day at 5, I think it's not going to happen. Let's be honest about it. So we have to do what we can under the circumstances, but at the same time, I think we have to be realistic if it comes to these high pressure jobs. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like us to go and see. I'm talking to the technicians now. I'd like you to switch to any site that would like to give us a question, and we'll be looking up behind us to see if there are sites that want to do that. But in the meantime, are there other things that people would like to contribute from the floor here? So I'm talking to you if you're in Spain, Luxembourg, Ireland, wherever you are. This is a chance for you to give us a question. But in the meantime, is there anybody else in this room that would like to make a comment of any kinds? Yes.
Yes, I just wanted to add a comment about the working methods. I think that there is an important reflection that should be done about the working methods. It's not just a question about reducing the workload. It's a question of seeing if there is not a way to do what we have to do, being more efficient. And having skipped lunch is absolutely nothing compared to the quantity of emails that are waiting for us in our inboxes. And I think that a significant part of the brain box of Euroland has no time to think anymore, has no time to invent, has no time to imagine, has only to do bureaucratic administrative work. And this is something which has to do very much with the workload balance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Another comment from the floor. Yes.
Yes, we are only here 15% of men. Is it so that they are not interested in the life balance? And also, you spoke a lot about stress and the problems it gives to the health and to the working. In the Commission, in the job vacancies, it is written that we need to be able to cope with stress. So that means that in advance we know we might be sick. Is that normal? And, well, okay, for the time being it's okay. Thanks.
Okay, who would like to respond to that on the panel? David, I think it's the only man you have to.
I want to speak.
Okay, yes.
As the only man, yes. The last question about stress, I mean, we have to be, you know, if I wasn't slightly stressed, I wouldn't do anything. So stress does not necessarily mean bad stress either. What it means is that if you go for certain jobs, you will have a certain amount of responsibility, which will put you under certain pressure. But up to a certain degree, pressure is not bad. It doesn't mean necessarily we're looking for candidates for heart attacks, just to reassure you. But Larry, you want to...
Quick point on working methods. I'm surprised how little we've had back from the AST population, which according to the results, there's quite a lot of. The more we get away from signataire-based working with lots of hierarchy having to approve stuff, the more we have IT and the more it facilitates working at home. Personally, I think I'd like to get the AST network, the AST population, much more involved in how to revolutionise how we work. I think this is a really big key to how we get better work-life balance through better productivity.
Thank you. Another comment? Yes?
Yeah, just to answer the last question, I think what I'm quite pleased about today is that we are entering a culture of dialogue, which we haven't had for a long time. And I think it's great. We also hear criticism coming from that side of the table. And I think that's absolutely great. And I really thank you for that. I really thank you for that.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments? This is a great opportunity to use. Yes.
Thank you. I've been with the Commission for more than 20 years. There was part-time before as well. It's not so new. What still is missing, I find today, is when you look at job vacancies, a job published for 50% worker or something like that, for someone really working part-time. I think it was mentioned before, the possibility for mobility, like you said, to be able to prepared to walk. It's not easy for part-time workers.
So are you saying that it's unusual to see a job advertised that's only 50%?
They are.
Put your hands up if you've seen a job advertised for half-time. But folks, in this room, you are people who design these jobs. So why aren't we able to design them ourselves? What am I missing? Yes?
I am sorry to come back to my comment before. We are missing that if we advertise half-time, we will get no replacement or only partial replacement. And that's, of course, the difficulty behind. So I come back to the question.
Sorry, I didn't understand that. If you advertise for a part-time post...
Yeah, then we can get one person. But for the other part of the post, because normally we'll have a full-time job, which you advise them to do, you will not get a fully fledged replacement.
Why?
Well, I am asking the panel.
So are you saying that budget gets taken away from you?
Sorry?
Are you saying that you lose your budget if you split a job in two?
Of course, if you take a half-time person working part-time, the person will work part-time, but you have covered a full-time job. Ergo, you lose 20 up to 50%.
Right. Okay, this is fundamental. What you're saying is that, that some bureaucrat will steal your budget from you if you actually go for job share. That's what you're saying.
Well, job share I've never seen in the Commission.
Sorry, just say that to me really slowly. Job share you have never seen in the Commission. Put your hands up if you agree with that statement.
I'm right, I think, huh? Yeah.
I have to say how shocking these things are. I know you can criticise me because I'm outside the Euro. You say, who is this Dr. Dixon? He knows nothing about the EU Commission. Well, I can tell you, I'm holding a mirror up to you, and what you're showing me is some things that are really shocking. Because job share is a fundamental part of business life these days. It's two people who often know each other. They plot together how they're going to do it, and they come with the combined package. And it is absolutely understood. A job needs to be done. It has a budget attached to it. It's part of the budget of your whole department. How you actually organise that particular team is entirely your affair. If someone tries to organise you from outside, some bureaucrat in finance department, they will kill you. Because it automatically explains to me a fundamental problem. Because you are unable to design part-time jobs. And we know that part-time jobs is the answer to this. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's the member states, of course, who are not very happy to give us more resources, not our managers. I might like to add...
Well, I don't mind, you're not asking for more, you're just saying don't steal what I've got.
Yeah.
Thank you. Right,
So.
next comment from behind. Thank you very much. It's a very, very important point. Thank you.
I think if I wanted to talk about job sharing, because job sharing is working extremely well in many of the member states already, so there are examples available. And
So why not in the EU Commission? It
well,
works
if I
everywhere
remember
else.
correctly, there was a proposal quite a number of years ago, possibly in the 2004 reform, that, for example, when people were on parental leave or long-term CCP, as we call it, that the budget would be moved towards people being able to have either part-time job or the possibility of job sharing. I don't know if Mr. Jacob from DGHR, who's the only management representative from DGHR here, but there were proposals many, many years ago about job sharing, and it is proven to be extremely successful.
Before we put the question to David, can I just make a comment, which is that the quickest way to solve the issue of changing culture, I'm talking about what's happened in business now, is to put quotas not on numbers of women in the organisation, but on something else. There's a big company called Sara Lee, 87 billion a year company, selling product mainly to women. Clothes, handbags, food, coffee, whatever. And they discovered that almost all of their organisation was run by men. And they thought this was a moral issue. And they made one decision which changed it overnight. They talked to the women and they said, would you like quotas to encourage women up the ranks? And they said, if you do that, we'll leave. We must know that we're promoted on excellence and nothing else. I said, well, how? What would you suggest? They said, there's one thing you should do only. You should incentivize every manager so that they're not allowed to get their full performance bonus unless they can show that they've reached a minimum percentage of part-time workers or job shares in their team. And they said, what's the minimum should be? So, well, 10% more than it is now and increasing by 2% per year or something like that. And that's what they did. So what happened is, what would happen? People go to the job. So what's your name? What's your name? Anne. So Anne would come and be interviewed by me. And I say, hello, Anne. You are absolutely brilliant. I can't wait to get you in the organisation. I know you've applied for a full-time job, but could I persuade you to work part-time for us? I say, oh, no, I don't think so. I need the money full-time. Full-time is what a pity. I could make it worth your while. I could offer you all kinds of special incentives to work part-time. Reason? I'm desperate to make my quota. I've got to get 2 more part-time people into my team in the next 6 months, or I'm... It's fantastic. Now, what I'm saying is, you could write that into EU, into Commission policy at various levels at a stroke of a pen, couldn't you, David? And just say, it's our target, every team should have at least 5% part-time working by 2012. Is there anything that would prevent that from happening?
Legally not.
There we are. Can we make it policy today? Who do we have to talk to get permission?
No, I think we can distinguish. We have probably to distinguish, to give you half a serious answer, between part-time work and job sharing. Job sharing is allowed on the basis of a new staff regulation. It is true that I personally do not know of any example in the Commission. If there are, they must be very, very limited. The reason I want to make the distinction between the two is that I'm not sure, this is not an excuse, I'm not sure that so much demand for job sharing. For part-time, yes. For part-time, we have a problem, but as my neighbour said, there are also budgetary considerations which are, and they must be addressed. It's not an excuse, that 2 part-time workers will end up costing more than 1 worker, so we need to do away with the budgetary obstacles.
So, now just explain to us the maths, because 1 + 1 to most people equals 2.
No.
Social expenses.
Not in terms of social security.
Because you have management costs which multiply.
Overheads.
Overheads.
Yeah, exactly.
You have desk costs, but a lot of those can be addressed through things like hot desking and management simply being more efficient.
Everything can be addressed. I'm not saying we cannot find a solution. What I'm saying is that one of the obstacles to the extension of part-time workers is the budgetary aspect. That's what I'm saying. That's not, I don't want to sound pessimistic, it doesn't mean we cannot do it, What I mean, I'm mentioning some of the obstacles. As I said, as far as job sharing is concerned, I think that, as my other colleague was saying, even in countries where it does exist, it is a relatively limited phenomenon. And at least in the Commission, I have not encountered many examples of cases who say, I'd like to job share with somebody else.
David, forgive me for pushing back, but I know a lot of people have wanted to ask the same question.
Do push.
1 plus 1 equals 2 point what? 2.1? 10?
I can't give you...
I can't give us a figure. You see, what's important, I mean, it was really, really important. There are people here who are saying they're being overruled. They're trying to fill some of the members of that team with part-timers. So let's say Mary wants to go part-time. That means that we've got to find someone else. Julie's actually saying that she'd like to transfer into the department and do the other half-time. It's a sort of a job share. We're going to split the job responsibilities. We're making 2 part-time jobs. And then your department says no, because it's going to cost 5% more, 2% more, 10% more. How much extra money does she have to find from her budget to create 2 part-time jobs? Can you give us any kind of indication? What is it?
I say I can't give you, I don't want to give you an exact figure because I may mislead you. What I'm saying is one of the obstacles we must resolve.
Okay, but what we're saying too is that some of it is maybe in terms of taxation, things like that, but a lot of it is internal costs, isn't it? It's the oh no, you think it's external?
Well, we have like any organisation, we have a given budget. We must work within that budget.
Yes.
And so if we allocate more for this, we must allocate less from something else.
What I'm trying to understand is if you've got Tom and Jerry who are both going to share the same desk, they're going to share the same computer. I know there's an additional internal load in terms of giving them an extra email, an extra password, an extra personnel person to induct and train, an extra person's salary to manage and pay out. But surely, to goodness, we can manage those costs. But is there an additional taxation cost that I don't understand, a loading on your budget for every single head count you suddenly start paying another £5,000? Is that correct?
Yeah, so it's a question of overheads and it's not a question of internal costs. This being said, it's a question, it's the percentage of taxation, because since it's a percentage of the salary, if the salary is lower, there is a whole, I cannot remember about calculation. I knew it in a former life, but I have forgotten, I must say. But what I wanted to say is, if there is a will, you always can.
Well, I think also if there's some maths, we can deal with it. My experience is that when you actually know what the figure is, you can budget. You see, when we don't know, then these people are at sea. You see, because, for instance, what's your name? Geneviève. Geneviève needs to go out of this room with a figure in her head. She needs to know, if 2 people come to her and say, we want to do a job share, she says straight away, I've got to find an extra 5%. And then she says, OK, because I love you both, and I'm going to work very hard, I think I can find 5% saving somewhere else, let's do it. But she can't do that, as she doesn't know whether it's 5%, 1% or 55%. So how could we get such a figure to these people so they could actually plan?
What we can do is to follow up this thing and provide the information in the coming days.
Yeah, it would be very helpful, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? Yes. Thank you.
I want to be sure we're not missing a key point here by focusing too much on job share and part-time. For me, flexible working is much more important, certainly coming at it from a managerial perspective. I've had examples of staff who were taking part-time, so therefore initiating a salary cut for themselves in order to get flexible working arrangements or a guarantee they could leave at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. I think this is appalling, because we need to get that flexibility, that guaranteed flexibility, into the system without staff having to do part-time work.
Put your hands up if you agree with that.
This is the issue. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I would like to ask... Oh, sorry.
No, you go first, then I'm going to that.
I would like to ask something to add something to that. And it's about part-time if you, for example, decide to work 90% or 80%. I would like to know the colleagues who have done it, and I have done it myself in the past, who had a formal workload reduction when they took 90%. I've never seen
Very
it.
good, very good. Okay, another question at the back here. Who had their hand up? Yes.
Again, about the arrangements for flexibility, for the tokens, for the teleworking. I think in many DGs currently there's the process ongoing, a selection for who may telework in the future. This was mentioned before as well. I think in my DG there are 39 places for the whole DG, and I think we are in very hard competition to get a place. Someone said before, children, not children. I think it would be good to increase the number. I don't know if there is an average per DG, maybe.
Thank you. That's great. Yes, another one here.
Yes, I completely agree with what Mrs. Evans said, that flexibility is the most important. And if I understood correctly, the first comment our colleague raised about making extensive use of flexible arrangements like flexi-time or teleworking, and why that cannot be applied to management position, I'm sorry, but I did not understand the answer from our Vice President saying that if you go for management, you have to think about long hours. Okay, but you can manage those long hours in a flexible way, I think.
Okay, 2 comments over here. Yes, over to you. Thank you. Yes, very good.
Yes, we never did get an answer on that one, did we? The answer was basically no. I would also like to put the question again why there are only 15% men here, and why work-life balance should be less relevant for our male colleagues than for us.
We'll come back to that.
Yes, hello, Sari Artek from DG Sanko. I would like to give a positive testimony of a DG where flexi-time has a universal application. We have a Director General, Madeline, who decided that everybody should do flexi-time. We have something like 99%. It is not costing anything, but it will give also the managers a chance to get this odd afternoon
Fantastic.
off.
Wonderful. Yes, one comment, and then we're back to the panel.
Just one comment about flexibility. I think what is very important, and also because the use of flexi-time have actually made this emerge, is that if you want to be flexible, you need to be much more a team, and to have backups and to be able to understand each other's needs, constraints. And I think this is also very key, because we have the tendency in the Commission to have our own jobs, but maybe we have also to be flexible in the way we work together. And I could experiment that in one of my former jobs, where actually we managed to leave our head of unit some space for her, just
It's
backing
true.
her.
You need a more sophisticated leadership skills to work with a team that's 100% flexibly. Now, back to the panel on this. David, yes.
One word, because several of you raised again the question of flexi-time for managers. I didn't understand Mr. Sefcovic-Jensen's meaning. It was not possible. In any case, personally, I do not see any reason why flexi-time and other forms of flexibility for work should not be available to managers. Because after all, as you said, if overworking and not having a proper balance between the two lives is bad for health, bad for your sound judgment finally, and for your work efficiency, then obviously you should make sure that managers benefit from it too, because nobody wants to have managers who are not able to perform properly. And as I said earlier on, the example I gave, when flexi-time was on the pilot phases in my DG, one of the head of units showed the example, and this was the best run unit out of the 5.
Fantastic.
So there's absolutely no reason in principle not to do it. This being said, it is probably true that sometime, obviously, managers can have to stay in the office a bit later, etc. I'm not saying it applies exactly in the same way, but as far as the principle is concerned, I think it should be available to all of us, not only for managers, but in the interest of the institution.
Thank you. 3 minutes, one minute each. Quick round up.
Unambiguous message. You can definitely be a head of units and a director and work flexibly. No doubt about it. The only thing you need is a culture within your DG where this is normal. It is normal within DG competition. Is it hard work? Yes, it's really hard work. And you may have to, after you've done the children's supper or whatever, go back to your email. So you have to have IT solutions and ways of working that are modernised and adapted to that. So flexibility is the thing, not hours.
Absolutely. And presence.
Yeah. I will sign everything that Laurie Evans said. It is doable. I have worked flexibly, but there are trade-offs, there are choices, and having be on a phone call on a weekend to many colleagues is part of those choices. But I mean, you can make those hours work. And if I remember correctly, Martine raised her hand for one of the highest degrees of satisfaction with work-life balance in the Commission. So we perhaps can all learn from her. But just very quickly to your point, I cannot agree more with the concept that you need much more teamwork. And this is part of breaking the silos and working in a team spirit, in a unit, in a directorate, in a DG, and then many things can work. So the message from me is as well, flexible working style is something that we all deserve.
Just two messages to finish. I think, first of all, I think we, and I talk as a woman, we have to learn to say no. I think this is really something we are just not good at. And we don't have to say necessarily, in an aggressive way, but, some of the things we have to do are just useless. So let's say it. And I think sometimes it's very helpful also for men to hear it. So you cannot say yes if you don't say no. That's a personal. Yeah. Second, a key word for me is the word trust. We have organized a system whereby we think that everybody is cheating, and so we've organized a system for the 5% of people cheating. I say 5, maybe it's only 2. And we have forgotten completely about the 95 that are really happy at work. And I think we really have to come back to trust and really listen to the people and their real needs.
Thank you very much. And just before I hand back to David, just two brief things. Firstly, there are some other questions and answers which we haven't displayed, which we will circulate by email and on the website. There will be a webcast of this, which is also available for you to transmit to your friends. And finally, we were asked a question, where are all the men? I have no idea. All I can say is that it's typical. And I think part of the reason is that in the societies which are represented in this room, it is often the women on whom more of the burden falls for caring for some of the dependent relatives, whether they're old or young, and that adds a certain emotional intensity to the discussion, but that's only part of the answer. And with that, I would like to hand back to our chair, David. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'll be very brief. We're exactly on time, so it's good organization from all of us. I would like to thank everybody, i.e. my colleagues on the panel. Lots of thanks to Professor Dixon. What you did was really extremely interesting and certainly very lively, not the usual Commission style. So it's a change. Thank you very much for the participants.